Thank you for joining us on the Southwest Florida Business Podcast. I'm your host, Chris. Today I'm joined by Frances McGinley from Frances Scissor Hands. I don't even want to tell you what we're going to be talking about. We're talking about everything that goes into running, starting, growing a barber shop. I think that's a pretty good summary.
I think it's a good start.
All right, good. Frances approves. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you soon. This episode is brought to you by Southwest Florida Podcast. If you're a business in Southwest Florida and you want to use a podcast to grow your business, scan the QR code on your screen or visit the link in the show notes at www.swflpodcast.com. Enjoy the show. Frances, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad we're finally doing this. We've been talking about this for, 4 months since I first told you about what I was doing with this thing, and you've been cutting my hair, and we keep talking about it, but now that season's out.
Yes, that's the key. Exactly. Season was just crazy, and so now we got the time.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't even seem like you're that much less busy right now.
So, that is so true, but I have the wiggle room now, and I'm not so jammed packed, but, during the season, it's like I'm just like, you don't really have time to do anything. So got the time now, and like, man, your podcast is just like really taking off. Like I see it, on Instagram, and then I was like on my TV, and like I was like searching for something, and I'm like, oh, there's Chris. Like that's my homie Chris, and I'm like, that is so cool. And I've seen Mitra, Dallas from Mitra come on here,
Yep.
and I've been looking at your page, and it's great local businesses, and I love that. So I thought it was super important to meet with you so we can
do this.
Yeah, and people can learn about Frances Scissor Hands.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing this, because you've been cutting my hair for what, 2.5, 3 years now or something?
Yeah, at least.
And so I got to see it when it was at the other suites, when it was one of two chairs in the suites right above Tokyo Bay.
10 by 12 room, or 10 by 10, 10 by 12, something like that. 2 chairs, 1 shampoo bowl. We were on top of each other. And then like we have like this great cool vibe, and everyone wants to like show their friends. So like our guys would like walk up, and they'd like bring their friends to see it, and they'd like walk in, and this was like before COVID and like the social distancing and everything, and people would just like walk in, and I'd be cutting, Diana would be cutting, and they'd be like, yeah, this is where I get my hair cut, and like we serve cocktails, so they're like, yeah, they got cocktails, look at their fridge, and like there's like 3 guys standing there. Diana's cutting someone, I'm cutting someone, so there's like 6 of us in this 10 by 12 room, and we're like, bro, we need to grow.
Yeah.
And so
well, and now you're at this new space. Oh, not even new anymore. You've been there for what, a year now?
Yeah, so since February 21. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's been that long?
Yeah, it's crazy. Time flies.
It's flying, and it's growing too, because I remember when you first got in there, and it was pretty much every time I go in there, it was just you, and now you've got the team running there and everything. So it's cool. So I want to ask you about, the growth from the 2 seats to where you're at now, and then maybe we can talk through some of the kind of the challenges that come with that, and how you navigate it, and how you looked at making that challenge or that change, because I remember we were talking about it at the old place. Like, should I do this? Should I renew? Should I find something else? What am I doing? And I'm in a similar spot with a different part of my business right now.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know how you navigated that. So let's start there, and then we can kind of get through like the history of how you started this, and we'll talk about the kind of vibe you created at the space.
So I when I first like started like hair school, like I didn't even think, I remember they taught, I did cosmetology school first, and I remember they taught us a class on men's hair cutting, and I like told my teacher, I was like, why do I have to learn how to cut men's hair? Like, I'm not going to be cutting men's hair when I get out of school. And she was like, it's part of the program. And I was like, okay. And like, you know, make a long story short, like I realized I hated doing women's hair. And so, you know, I kind of went back and forth from here to Chicago, but I started doing hair in North Naples. That was my first job out of school. So I was always in this area. Like this has always been my area. So I grew here, but I just like wasn't convinced I wanted to be here. So I went back to Chicago and then came back here 2017 and I started working for my best friend Chrissy at the cutting garage, which was right next to where I was at in Tokyo Bay. And Chrissy tragically had a car accident and passed away. And so when that happened, I took over her shop for her. And I was just seeing the numbers. And I was cutting and I had all these people waiting and I had other employees working there. And I was managing it for her. But everyone was sitting around and I was the only one cutting and I was running the numbers and I saw the numbers that I was producing and the numbers just didn't make sense for, you know, what I was bringing in at the end of the day. So I was like, I have to go out on my own. So JC from J. Lee Salon Suites actually reached out to me and said, you know, would you consider setting up a confidential, you know, meeting? And, you know, I really didn't want to. And I was like, I'm really happy here. And I had like this loyalty. And so she met with me. One thing led to another. And she actually convinced me. She sat down. I'm not a numbers person. And I don't trust any hairdresser that is a numbers person because none of us are good with numbers. So JC sat down with me and she like did the numbers for me. She's like, okay, bring me what you're doing now. She sat down, she did the numbers, and she's like, this is what you could be making. This is what you're making now, and you can do it. And she talked me into it, and then I backed out. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to do this, you know, because where I was at, they tried to get me to stay there. And they, like, talked me into it, and JC was like, that's fine, you know, I wish you the best. And then I ended up coming back to her. She gave me my deposit back, and she was like, okay, if you sign again, she's like, you can't back out this time. She goes, because I learned something from you. She's like, I had to make a deposit thing. And so she really convinced me that I could do it on my own, and that was amazing. And so I started in this little 8 by 10 square foot room. So you didn't even come to me then. And it was tiny, just this tiny little room. And one shampoo bowl, a chair, and like just like this shelf thing. And that worked. And then like, you know, I saw myself growing fast because when I left there, everyone followed me because it was walking distance. Like I was able to tell people like, just walk out in the parking lot, look over there at that sign, you see Tokyo Bay, that's where I'm at. And so my clients, you know, they all followed me and I grew so fast and I was like, this is too much for me by myself. And so I reached out to my girlfriend Diana that I worked with for years at the Cutting Garage and at Sport Clips. And I told her, I was like, listen, you know, I just opened up a salon suite. I wanna grow. I wanna get a double suite, but like I need someone else. And she didn't want to come on right away. So I was like, you know what? I was afraid that they were going to fill up the salon suite so fast that I was like, I'm just going to like just leap into a new space. So I got that room that you seen me in.
Yeah.
And I was like, that chair is just going to be for like the right person at the right time. When the right person comes along, I'll know. And I went through a few people before Diana. And then when Diana came on, me and her, we just worked together so great. And so
you got to gel in a space that small too.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, yeah, you have to get along with who you work with. And so we just had this awesome vibe and the clients loved it. And then we just got to the point where it's like, okay, now we got to get bigger than this because the world shut down. You know, COVID happened, the world shut down. And as soon as we came back to work, it was like the gold rush of hair. Like it was like there was all these memes like gas station or what was it? I think it was like gas station owners. Like I don't know, certain businesses were just like taking off, and barbering was one of them. Like if you didn't like where you were going to get a haircut before, then that was your opportunity to change. So I implemented policy to where you have to put a deposit down because people were just calling everywhere just to get in. Like it was a mad rush.
Yeah.
And everyone had bad quarantine haircuts. So everyone was just booking. And so I was like, all right, we got to expand. Years before that, though, I was with a girlfriend at this just kind of like little like hole in the wall salon. I met her there, and I ended up talking to the chick that was doing her hair, and I was like, oh, like, what do you pay here, and, what's the owner pay? And she didn't know. And I just like said it just like talking. I didn't even mean it. I was like, if they ever want to sell this place, let me know. And I didn't mean it at all. And then quarantine happens, and I start like my phone's blowing up, and this chick that was cutting my friend's hair, she's like, we're selling the shop, you gotta buy the shop, gotta buy the shop. And I was like, oh no, like it looked like a bad 80s salon. Like the people that were there were interesting, and I'm like, nope. And so
Not for me.
Yeah, I talked to Diana, and she was like, I don't know, you should really look into it. And I was like, you think? And she was like, yeah, I think so. So I just like didn't pay attention. And then I was at the gym one day, and so I knew the one chick's number not to answer it. And then I got a call from like a random number. So I answered, Frances Scissor Hands, and it's the owner of the shop. And so she was like, I heard you were interested, and would you meet with me? And I was like, fine, I'll meet with you. One thing led to another, and I signed on it in November, and then, there was all of this, like, the city workers and, like, the government offices, they were all closed. So it was a, like, struggle getting in there. But, like, it's just, like, we got the space that we needed, and it took a while. So I signed on it in November, and I didn't open until February. But it was the best move ever. But like everything, when I went into the salon suites, I backed out of it because it was scary. And, nothing good, no growth ever happens without fear. And it's like a healthy fear, because if you just like go into it and you're like, oh, everything's going to be great, it's like, ooh, you need to be careful, like you have to have that healthy fear, because it'll keep you from failing,
Yeah, well, and if you don't have that, then you're just going to do dumb stuff and just waste money, which you're going to do regardless. Mm-hmm. So it's like, all right, well, let's keep that down by at least 20% less dumb stuff that I'm buying.
So when I was in the salon suites, there was like a lot of like hairdressers that are like amazing, and they had their own shops, but it's a lot to have your own shop. Like, you're not just worrying about you and your clients. Like now you're doing the marketing, you're doing the advertising marketing, you're booking your clients, you're trying to find business for your other people, you're doing your posts, like there's just so much that goes into it. And so from the people that were at the salon suites, I would ask them, the ones that had their own shops, or the people that just had their salon suites and it wasn't their first time having their salon suite. I'm like, so like, if you could give me any advice, or if you could give yourself advice, like what would you, like your first year, what advice would you give yourself? They're like, well, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and but it's okay because you're going to learn from them. And I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, and you still make them, but COVID, like you just had to find like your silver lining during that time. And like I didn't really know what I was like doing, producing. Like my shop was very successful, but like number wise, like my accountant, my CPA knew it and everything, but like I didn't, and so like I was able to actually like get everything in order and like know like, oh wow, like okay, so this is what I'm bringing in, and like this is what, and then I expanded. And so it was like on a larger scale, and, just trying to like bring my vision and bring the right people in so that way my vision can, come about.
Yeah. So you have the vision, and then it was looking at, all right, let me figure out the finances, make sure all this stuff is in line. So that way, if I go to actually execute on this, I'm not just,
right.
All right, let me dump X amount of thousands or tens of thousands into something that literally makes no sense.
Right.
So all right. So when Jay Lee, who owns
JC,
yep. when she sat you down initially to do this stuff and run the numbers and everything like that, was that really like your first experience with somebody explaining the business aspect of what you're doing?
Yeah, so the owners of the shop that I was managing for my best friend that passed, her parents told me, they were like, well, that like running a shop isn't just cutting hair, it's you're gonna have to do numbers. And it was almost like, them like trying to like discourage me because like they knew I wasn't good with numbers. And like JC actually like sat me down and she did the numbers with me. But like not only that, so like she was like such a mentor for me. So Chrissy was my mentor. Like she was kind of like my first boss when I decided I'm only doing men's hair. This is my career. Now I have my career picked out. I'm gonna do men's hair. Chrissy was my mentor, and I wanted to cut hair like her. I wanted to be able to talk to my clients like her. I wanted to have those relationships like she had with her clients. So I would watch her like a hawk, and just everything she would do, I would try to do the same thing. And then, she passed and I opened up my own place, and JC kind of like took that place, and it was amazing because she like, believed in me until I could believe in myself. And then JC, when and then she got me a lot of clients too. She told me, she was like, hey, this Gulf Shore life, you need to get in Gulf Shore life. She sent me all the links. It was the first year that I was open in the salon suites. And if it wasn't for her, like she sent me all these links and all the information I needed. And all I did was like, post like, hey, can you guys vote for me? For best barbershop of Lee County, best barbershop. And my first year that I was open, like I got I won best barbershop of Lee County, first place. For 2019, I opened in 2018, but like it was kind of for like 2018, but like by the time you got it, it said it was for 2019. So that was like a huge accomplishment that like she helped me do. And then when I decided that I was going to go out on my own, like I cut her husband's hair, her brother's hair, all the friends' hair, like her friends' hair. And I was talking to her brother, and I have a good relationship with her brother, like I do with all my clients, like I do with you, And I was like, hey, Jared, so like, I got to talk to you about something, but like, please don't tell your sister because like, I want to talk to her about it. Like, what do you think she's going to say when I like tell her that like I'm going to go out on my own? He's like, my sister will help you. Like, she like knows, more. He's like, my sister, when she went and opened up her first shop, he goes, she wasn't even good. He's like, you're good. He's like, so she'll help you. And she did. Like, she like brought me in again, like, and like, I sat with her at the Kava bar. I'll never forget. And she was like, I was like, so I had this opportunity come about, and this, and this. And I was like, what do you think? And she was like, Frances, you have to do this. And like, that's like crazy because she was getting a good amount of rent from me. You know what I mean? And I was a great tenant for her, but she wanted to see me grow. You know what I mean? And she pushed me. And not only did she do that, but she mentored me. And she was like, okay, so he wants to run it to you for this. Let's do this, and let's do this and this and this. And she like actually helped me like negotiate everything with my new landlord, which she had to learn how to do on her own, so it was just like, it's amazing. And, you know, just having like those strong people around you and like that networking, it brings you so far, you know?
Yeah.
So.
No, it's cool to have people like that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what I'm seeing with doing this podcast even is I'm talking to all these business owners, and some of the business owners that I'm talking to, they've been in business for 30 plus years. And now I'm actually maybe not even in that in depth, but now I get to talk to them and talk through ideas and, hey, I'm thinking of this. What do you think about price points? What do you think about what needs to be delivered with this? How should I roll it out? And it's really amazing how many people that are further along in the journey will help you.
Yes.
And I think part of it is what I'm seeing is it's important to have this group of people that are in a similar spot to you. Like, I think this is why you and I, when I sit down in the 100%. Chair, we can talk the whole time about business and then conspiracy theories, which
everything.
We talk about literally everything.
Everything.
But part of that is I'm starting to build this network of people that are building their businesses and kind of growing their lives in that same way. And we kind of exist in this band. I'm seeing
all we want to do is help each other.
Yeah, but then there's this next tier of people that are further along, and I think because they've been successful, it avoids that competition mindset that you kind of get into with eventually people that are your age in the same space. And it's nice to have those people be like, all right, we're not competing. You're not on my level at all. Not because I'm looking down on you, but because I've got X amount more experience than you.
Yep.
Come along for the ride. Like I'll show, like I'll light the way for you. I'm not going to do this for you. You have to do it, which seems like a key piece that she kind of had in this. But it's pretty amazing. But the main thing is like you gotta reach out for it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And I mean, there's just been so many different connections through all of this. I mean, so JC, she, I can honestly say if it wasn't for JC, I wouldn't be the successful business owner I am today. And that's amazing. And if it wasn't for Chrissy, then I wouldn't have gotten to where I was with JC. And then through JC, I like ended up meeting Ryan that owns Mitra. And, you know, and then that brought like a whole nother aspect to my business.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, so it's a high-end barbershop. Like I knew what I wanted to create, and I wanted to create this environment where like you're safe with, you know, you feel safe. Like when someone sits in my chair, it's like when you first start out doing anything and you're scared, people can like smell that fear on you. And it's just the same with confidence. Like when someone sits in my chair, they know that I'm going to do, like they feel safe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and not just for that you're going to give a good haircut, but like when I sit down, it's like we can literally talk about anything.
Yeah.
I can say something to you that I probably wouldn't tell most people in terms of like, oh, they might be offended or something like that. And it's just like, hey, I was thinking about this. And you're like, whoa, I was thinking about that too.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It is really, that's the feeling in there. It's like, okay, I can pretty much, like you can be yourself in there.
100%, 100,000,000%. And on, so like, you know, Frances Scissor Hands has been open for 4 years now. And I had this, like 4-year anniversary / the 1 year at the new location. And someone came up to me and they were like, Frances, I just wanted to tell you, like, I really respect that, like, you are yourself. Like, you know, a lot of business owners, like, try to put on, like, this act or, like, this fakeness and pretend that they're someone they're not. They're like, but you have, like, been so successful just by being 100% yourself. And, like, I think that's so awesome because for years when I worked for, like, corporate places, like, I had to like hide my tattoos and like I had to like, you know, just be cookie cutter. And like to the point that like when I started working with Chrissy, I'm like, you are so unprofessional. And she's like, no, I'm not. I just like know my clientele and I know who's who. And like, that's exactly it. You know, it's building those relationships because it's more than just like a haircut. It's like the experience. It's the relationship, you know, it's everything,
Yeah.
you know?
But being yourself hasn't made it where it's made your business harder.
Oh,
Like
no.
it's just you kind of attract the people that you're going to attract in that
Yeah.
way. But it's at the same time, you're charging like a higher amount. It's like a premium service.
Of course.
But I haven't been able to find that anywhere else. So that
Exactly.
I'm like, all right, I'll pay this. Like
Right.
this, it's fine.
Right.
You know?
Like, I don't know the legalities, so I'm not going to mention names, but there is a very, very high-end, well-known salon that charges $65 for a basic men's cut, and it's by their, like, you know, head stylist or whatever it is. And like, they don't do a good job, and it's like, just because you can charge that doesn't mean you should. And like, I can say it with confidence, like, you cannot go anywhere else around here and get what I provide for even more than what I charge. You know, like, it's just, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. I love what I have now, because what I've created now is what I've always dreamed of. And like, it's amazing, you know, when you can actually like see how far you've come over the years.
Yeah.
You know?
So how did you create this? Like what was the main thing?
So when Chrissy passed, I knew what she was paying herself, and I saw what I was making, and I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. And I was always, before Chrissy's place and even at Chrissy's place, we all came from corporate places, okay? And I decided back in 2014, so I started doing hair in 2009. In 2014, I was at Sport Clips working for Chrissy as my manager, and my clients were like, Frances, you are so good, but I just really wish you could use the straight razor. And I heard it so many times that I'm like, I'm never going to do women's hair again. I should probably go back to school to be a barber. The only difference between a cosmetology license and a barber license is legally you are allowed to use the straight razor. So I already did cosmetology, and I already had the fundamentals, and I was good at men's haircuts. I wasn't the best yet, but I was good. And so I went back to school for barbering. And so when Chrissy passed, I was like, all right, I know what I want to do. I was kind of following her rules. She was like, you can't schedule your own clients like everyone. It's just like first come, first serve. And I was like, I'm not listening to you. And I would like go and I'd put my people in. She'd say you could do call aheads, and I'd just be like, all right, I'm just going to put them in. And so like, I knew everything that I liked and I didn't like everywhere I worked. So I took, and like, also the final straw for me why I left the cutting garage was because I just like, I'm getting a brain fart. We can edit this, right?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So what was the question?
So like, what was the main reason why you left the cutting garage?
So the main reason why I left the cutting garage was that at the end of the day, I wasn't making enough money for the work that I was putting in and for what they were taking. It didn't make sense. So what I did when I created like my actual shop, my storefront, is I just wanted to create an environment different than anywhere I've ever worked. So the reasons why I left the other places that I worked, I wanted to take those things out. And the reason being was like, I was always capped. Even at the salon suites, like the salon suites were an absolute stepping stone. But I was charged like a user fee for having Diana in my salon suite. So that was an extra $50-something a week, you know, for Diana being there. At the cutting garage, I was being paid hourly. They wouldn't do chair rental, so that capped me also. So I wanted my girls to be able to make the most money that they can make and to be their own boss without any of the BS that comes with it, you know? So like be your own boss and make the most money you can make. I'm going to incentivize you. And all I want is a happy environment. I want the clients to be happy. I want my girls to be happy, because if my girls aren't happy, my customers aren't going to be happy. And it just like will set the whole tone and vibe for everyone.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was the biggest thing for me, is just make sure that you take care of the people that work for you. And I never wanted quantity, I wanted quality. So I always tell my girls, never rush, slow down, like just be the best you can be. If there's something that you're not, like, what are your weak points? What are your strong points? Because I want to learn from your strong points, and I want to teach you from my strong points, whatever you're lacking in, because that's just this industry. I don't care how new you are or how long you've been doing it. Like when I go to the schools and I teach classes, I tell everyone, I'm like, take out your phones, everyone add each other on Instagram, and just know that we can learn from every single person in this room. Like everyone knows something that someone doesn't, whether it's communication skills, whether it's just like whatever, you know, everyone has something, a special niche that no one else does, you know?
Yeah. Well, and we're talking about like the continued education with this
Right.
stuff going on. I mean, so do people keep learning? Like, are you seeing barbers keep learning, or do people stagnate, or what do you see?
All right. So for a long time, I think that was something that kind of hindered my growth for a long time. So I was so busy being behind the chair cutting that I wasn't going to any of these continuing education classes. I was just like, you know, working for the man. That's all I was worried about doing. And then COVID hit, and I'm watching all these like videos, and I'm like, man, I wish I could do that. Man, I wish I could do that. Man, that looks so cool. And so I was like, I want to go to these, like, I want to start going to like all of these classes and these events, like these barbering events. But it was always like, I was always a little intimidated by it because I had never been, and I was ashamed that I had already been in the business for like 9 years and I never went to any of the events. So as soon as COVID was over and they started having the events, I was like, all right, girls, get your stuff together. Like I got all my girls like our tickets for the event, and then we just started showing up. And we were taking classes, and I started learning things, and that is what helps you be able to raise your prices as a barber. So in the past 10 years, the barbering game, like if you think about like the 90s, like your options for the 90s, like, I mean, they had like the bowl cut, like not much, you know what I mean? Like the old man haircut, like that's still around. Like you didn't have options. Now there's like fades, there's faux hawks, mohawks, there's pompadours. I mean, the color, they're doing all these things. So like, and it lit a fire in me when I started going to these classes, and like I met like Usher's barber and like just all these celebrity barbers that talk to you about like how they got where they're at, and how, you know, the continuing education is so important. And like, you know, it shows you all of the new things that are out. And, you know, I feel like there's so many barbers that are still charging $25 a haircut, $30 a haircut, which some of it is like the demographics where you're at. But if you're talented and, you know, you're continuing your education, you should absolutely up your prices, because haircuts are taking us longer now because we know so much more. Like, you know, there's so much more detail that goes into every little thing that you do that makes it just the best for them, you know?
Yeah.
And so if you're not continuing your education, you sell yourself short because you don't have that confidence. But when you know that you just learned from Usher's barber, or you just learned from a guy that came all the way from Ireland and he's got 30,000 followers on Instagram, you know that you're the shit. You know what I mean? Like you put the work into learning, and then you become the best, but you have to invest in yourself. And I think that there's so many people that are just like so busy, like working, doing these $25 haircuts. But if they realize that they just like can take a step back and like, all right, I know that this show's coming up and that there's a class. I'm going to take that class and I'm going to take that day off. And then, you learn so much more, and it allows you to raise the bar for your clients. And then it's great because my clients will come in sometimes and they're like, I don't know what to do, but I want to do something different. And like, there's no price that you can put on someone that is going to be like, do you trust me? And if they trust you and you do it and they love it, like, it's like amazing. You know
Customer
what I mean?
for
Like,
life.
yeah, because they don't know how to explain it. And, like, that's our job. We have to know how to make sense of what they want when they don't know how to explain it, but they know they want something different.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
So that's what makes the difference between someone down the street. It's just like, like they taught us in hair school, whatever you put in is what you take out. You know what I mean? So if you're not putting the time in, then like, yeah, you're going to stay stuck. And like, we all know that inflation is crazy. So it's insanity to still be stagnant and not be learning and not be growing and raising your prices and raising the bar, especially if you've been in the industry for however long.
Do you think it comes from fear or feeling like imposter syndrome, or it's like, hey, I'm too busy to even do this?
I think that people don't see the value in continuing their education. I think that people look at it like, well, I could be working that day, or, that's my only day off. I hear that all the time. Well, that's my only day off. I don't want to do that. And it's like, okay, well, then you're not going to learn. You know what I mean? And you're not going to grow. If that's what life's about. It's all about learning and growing and teaching other people. And you always, like, if you're not growing, you're slowly dying.
Yeah.
And for so many years. And there's a lot of fear in it too. Like, I was scared when I went to my first barber, especially when I got on stage for the first time, because here I am, these people, I'm with the best of the best. And like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I've never done this. This is scary. But like, now I've been to so many of these things that when I went to the hair school and I taught like a shaving demo, one of the kids was like, yeah, I seen you like on stage showcasing at the gala that Chico Boom had at the Sidney Davis Art Center downtown. And he's like, oh, but like, I don't want to go to that again because it was so expensive. Like, how much did you pay? And I was like, it was around $1,000, but he's like, yeah, I want to do some, wall classes with these famous wall educators. And I'm like, that's great and everything, but like, me from seeing me at that class. If I wasn't at that, not the class, the
expo.
The expo. If you didn't see me on stage, I would be nobody to you. You know what I mean? So you have to get locally known first, because that guy that's working for Wall, like we were talking about, the networking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you got to get locally known, network, get known where you're at first, because the person from Wall, like, they're a big deal to you, but like, it's nothing to them that you're at their class. And you're never going to be able to follow up with that person and be like, hey, so about that class, like, I do classes with like, Ray Fades. He does a bunch of promoting for barber classes and things like that. And Miguel from Ace of Fades. And, I can reach out to these guys who were teachers at these classes, and he will step by step talk to me on the phone and be like, hey, you do this, and like, they'll let me know about events coming up. And It's just all about networking. And I was so afraid at one point. And like, now they've they help me, and it's amazing. And I remember, so I talked to Miguel from Ace of Fades, and he's got a successful barbershop in North Fort Myers, and I told him, I was like, I when I got out of barber school, I tried getting a job from you, and you told me no, that I wasn't good enough yet. And he was like, no, I didn't. He was like, that doesn't even sound like me. And I was like, yeah, but you did. I was like, you told me that my lines weren't clean enough. He goes, yeah, that actually sounds like me. He's like, I'd hire you now. I'm like, well, it's too late. I got my own shop now. But like back when I first started doing hair, like I wanted like a barber to like get me and like take me under their wing and like show me the ropes. And like there were not really any female barbers back then, and there wasn't any barbers that were willing and wanting to take me under their wings. So I just kind of winged it. I learned from Chrissy, went back to barbering school, and just like, watched videos, went and shadowed people at their shops, and just did whatever I could to grow. And now I love competing on stage. Like I'm going to be doing the gala again October 2nd. And oh my God, I was so nervous the first time. Now I'm like pumped and I'm so stoked. And people see that too. And people tell me, they're like, man, I love seeing that you went to this class and you're doing this and you did that.
Yeah.
And like it gives you notoriety, and people are like, she's not just that barber down the street charging $25 and getting people in and out. And yeah, she's always available and she can get me in. But she's out at these shows and, she does the best work, and it's hard to get in with her. But when you go in and you get in with her, you get a scalp massage, you get a hot steam towel, you get a neck and shoulder massage, you get a cocktail if you'd like a cocktail, you get a kratom if you want a kratom, a kava. I've implemented so much into my shop. We have a speakeasy, a lounge area with a TV for the customers to wait, and they're not staring you down. And that also like goes into the aspect of like, no one ever needs to feel rushed, because in other barbershops, people feel rushed because the clients are staring you down. They'll show up early, and it's like, you can stare me down all you want, but I always tell people, when you're in my chair, you're the most important person. When the next person's in my chair, they're the most important person, and so on and so forth. So I would rather over time how long it's going to take me than under time it and me be running late all day on everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're constantly behind and everything.
Exactly.
Well, and one thing you said too that was interesting is I've had this with the way that I go about getting like continuing education in the podcast world or all this kind of stuff. And it's very much people have their online courses or stuff like that. But one thing I'm noticing too is one of the most valuable things is that connection with the person that's doing it, because they have this experience in the space. They've seen other people do a bunch of other style podcasts, or, oh yeah, I know somebody that did something similar to that. And actually I did something similar, but here's what I did. And you start to learn. And the course is great. And I learn a decent amount. I was also one of the kids that never did their homework. So I don't end up finishing any of these, but I end up connecting with all these people that I now have as like a professional resource. And over the course of time, one thing that is cool about being in those spots, right, is as you meet those people and you go to them for actual advice and then take what you ask them and start implementing it, the next time you go back might be 6 months later or something. But when you show up to those people and you're not asking for a handout, you're not asking for a favor, you're not asking for all these things, you're genuinely asking, I have a problem and I need help solving it so I can go solve it myself. They are so much more willing to actually give you real information and real help that you wouldn't have found anywhere else because you're doing your own thing. But it took me a little bit to realize that I wasn't necessarily buying the course. I was buying the expertise, like a way to plug into the expertise of the people that we're running those.
Yep, absolutely. And not only that, but like these classes, like they cost money. You know what I mean? That's another factor. People are like, I don't want to go spend $150 at that class. That's a lot of money. And it's like, well, like knowledge is power. And that 150 in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing, because what you're learning, like, you know, it's constantly like you're going to be constantly growing. Like this industry is always changing. And like you said, I made those connections, and I go and I show up to all of these events with these local barbers because they support me in turn. Like we all, it's like a family, and we all have our own separate things. But like you said, they're a little bit more ahead of you. And like, it was really funny. I remember like when I did like the class, like it was a real expensive class. So, and they didn't have that many people in it, but it was on social media content. And oh man, I was so behind with all of this. And so, like I posted one of my first videos, and the teacher from the class like commented on it, and he's like, fire haircut. And then like I responded to it, and I'm like, well, what about the video? I'm like, it only took me an hour to make it. And then he like DMs me, and he's like, you did it all wrong. And I'm like, what? And like he like broke it down and like showed me how to do it right, and like explained to me like the algorithm, like Instagram's not going to pick it up in the algorithm if you don't do it like this. And like he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to go out of his way. He actually called me and like told me like, this is the things that you did wrong or you didn't do right, and this is how you can do it differently. And like it just, and it's amazing. Like, and not only that, but like I'm sure he feels good seeing when I post videos now, and like they're good because he comments on them and he's like fire, you know what I mean? And I'm like, hell yeah. And it's just like when I teach someone something and I see them using it, I'm like, oh, that's so amazing. Like it makes you proud, because to have something and share it with someone else, like to give away what you learned, it's just like, you can't even put a price on it.
Well, it all comes back to you in some way. And I think in positive ways, like I'm seeing that. Like I kind of, like I have this thing, and then I have people reach out to me like, oh, hey, can you produce podcasts for me? But it's way under budget. And rather than being like, oh, well, I don't have time for this, I just go, look, I can't produce it for that price, but here's what I can do is come in here, or I'll meet you for a half hour or an hour, and I'll literally walk you through like everything that I do or everything that I did at the start of this, so you can do this for real cheap, do it on your own. But if you want to do it, you have to put in the effort, but I'll show you everything. And by doing that, it's actually created other business opportunities where they reach out to somebody who could be a paying customer and go like, well, hey, actually, you should go be on this podcast and buy the content because I was there and I saw the studio and it looks awesome. And, oh, you know what? You should really do this. And it's just putting that stuff out there is actually helping, and it's not a waste of time. It's like, and it makes you better at what you do too, because you're just explaining it and teaching it, and I don't know, you like move that much closer to being a master at it.
Oh, 100%. And like just, it's the networking. It's so huge, and just like applying yourself. And I think that like a huge thing with like barbers is like, it comes down to like, there's a lot of people that are like talented, but like you need to like be able to be well-rounded with what you do. And like, you know, you need to be able to do like, you know, scissors. If someone wants all scissors, you need to, you know, be able, you just have to be well-rounded. And like, you just, the way you do that is by like you just don't stop learning. And like me, I'm always hungry to keep learning, you know?
Yeah, it's important. And so kind of on that same theme, right? You started off, you were cutting hair, doing all this, you grew into the next space, and then you grew into this space. And part of what I'm kind of seeing with the business is now you're almost creating like multiple revenue streams for yourself within the business. So
Right.
so can you walk me through that, like the different revenue streams that you have for the business, and then
Yeah.
how these things come about, and then how you manage them and look at the opportunities?
Yeah, so all right, so the revenue streams. So like, all right, I'm working on becoming an ambassador for pump powder right now. And I think I used that in your hair last time. You're not out of the other powder that you have. But like I'm trying to like I want the best of the best products, whatever those may be. You
Yeah.
know, so like basically pump powder. I love it. I talked to the owner of it. I told him I want to become an ambassador for his company. And he explained to me like that it's not water soluble. So if you don't wash your hair every day, like with shampoo, and you just rinse, then like you'll still have the powder and the texture hold the next day. You know, so like retail is huge, and like a lot of barbers don't educate their clients on retail because they're just like in and out, and it comes down to like you have to care, you know what I mean? And like really caring, because like I was starting to say, and I kind of got sidetracked, people there's people that are really good at what they do, but they just want to like do what they want to do. And it's like you have to take what that person says to you and make it like make sense. And like you have to have a vision, and it has to match their vision, and like that has to be agreed upon like before you start. But in order for them to do what we do and leave and have it look the same, people are all like, always like, oh, like you make it look so good. If I could just have you every morning do my hair. And it's like, well, like, yeah, I can totally like make that a service, but how about I show you what I use? And like educating your clients, showing them how to use the products is huge, because it's life changing. Like my clients are like, oh my God, like that stuff that you sold me. Or I'll just tell them, I'm like, hey, I'm going to put this in your hair. You don't have to use, like, you don't have to buy it. Just see how you like it. And I always have it. And so people will come back and they'll be like, oh my gosh, like that stuff you used was just amazing. Like I need it. And then clients that like don't get the shampoos, they'll come in and they'll be like, every time I leave, like my hair feels so good. Like, but I don't have you put product in it. Like, what do you do? Well, before I start cutting hair, I always use like this tea tree hair and body moisturizer. So like that's what they're looking for. But that's like my fault for not educating them, like because I know they're not going to get a shampoo, and I know that they don't normally use hair products. So I'm like almost like selling myself short by like not telling them, hey, so this is what I'm using in your hair. I use it as a cutting aid, but it also gives you a light control. You know?
That's a good point. So, okay. So you're using these different things that you end up selling, but part of what you realize that you need to do is actually tell people what you're doing. So in that way, you're teaching them how your process works, how they're supposed to use it, how they can get the most, which you wouldn't think how to get the most out of a haircut. But
it's true.
But it is true,
Absolutely.
especially if you have these streams of revenue that are coming from it. And some of these things initially, I'm seeing it myself, you might write them off as, well, people don't find this valuable. But I think what it is people don't know.
People don't know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And a lot of the barber shops that you go to, it's just like get them in, get them out. And it's that rush. So many places, it's like chop shop, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And like, it's like, no, like you gotta tell your client what you're using, how you achieved this, how they can achieve it at home themselves. And a lot of people are going to be skeptical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you're just like, hey, this is what I used on you, I'm going to put it in your notes. And that's another thing. I keep notes on everyone's haircut. So that way, because by the time you come in next time, I mean, I know off the top of my head now how to cut your hair, but it's like,
You might have cut 100 people's hair.
Yeah, but most people, like, you don't know exactly what they want, or what you did the last time. You don't know if you switched it up. You don't know if there was something your wife hated that you did, and they're like, hey, we can't do that again. I loved it, but the wife didn't. And so I keep notes on how I cut everyone's hair. I put in the notes, like, what products I recommend, so if they come back. But I always know what products I use because I have my go-tos, and like nothing works quite like those products,
Yeah.
So, but like other streams of income, so I have Mitra. So like I know that you like did a podcast with Dallas from Mitra. And so like I was big into like the kava bars and stuff. I stopped drinking a few years ago, and when I stopped drinking, like it's like, okay, well, what am I doing now? Like I'm not going to the bar, and I had just opened my business, and we were right downstairs from a kava bar. And so I ended up introducing a client to that specific kava bar, and he ended up opening his own line, which happens to be Mitra. And this stuff is awesome. Like the kava bars are amazing. It's such a nice like social environment that, like you can still feel like you got that social aspect. You still can drink and like catch like a buzz, but it doesn't intoxicate you. You're
not doing all the not doing all the alcohol stuff.
It doesn't make you stupid. Like you can't, like there's no negative consequences from it. But there's like also a huge community of like people in like the kava and kratom world. And so like my client that ended up starting Mitra, Ryan, like I right away, like I was like, I want your stuff, and so I had his first stuff, and then I wasn't the biggest fan of like the taste, and so I was like, Ryan, like I'm not gonna get any more until the taste gets better. And he was like, good, this is the feedback I need. So then he changed it and he made it better, and then he changed it again and he made it better. But then I sell their stuff. And like, Ryan told me, he's like, you're like one of the cheapest out of like everyone that sells it. And I'm like, that's fine. And he's like, I'm just saying, like, if you wanted to like raise it, you could. And I'm like, yeah, I could. But the thing is, like, I just want people to be able to get something here that they can't get somewhere else. I also like to help my friend, like, introduce his line to people. And I think it's awesome that like I can get this can for $7 at my shop instead of going to places that actually, there's a lot of places that do just Mitra. And for this is I think a 12-ounce can for 12 ounces, and I charge $7. I think they charge like 12 or 14, and I charge 7.
Almost
and
half.
Then for the cans at the other places, they're charging like $11.50. And it's like, it just comes down to like, I don't need to like make a bunch of money on this. I want to provide something extra.
It fits into the experience.
It's still bringing me in money. It adds to the experience. And again, it's networking with another person. So it's like now I have Ryan's products, and it's great. People love it. And like, it's funny, like just the same thing. So when I first started out, like, how did I like build? I gave a lot of stuff away for free. I had a client of mine, and he was like super successful, and he would charge $30,000 for a class where people would come and learn from him. And I'm like, how did you get to where you're at? He's like, I gave a lot of stuff away for free. I did a lot of free videos. I did a lot of free, like, marketing, and like just put content out there. And like just basically showed people that I know what I'm talking about in order for them to like, trust me. And like that's what I did. I did a lot of like, hey, send in a friend, and then you're going to get a free haircut, and they're going to get a free haircut. And like that's like quite a bit of money to like advertise, but it worked. And all I knew is that so what they told me in hair school is if you could, my barber instructor said, if you can get someone in your chair once and you can't get them back again, that's your fault. And I believe that 100%. So like even with Mitra, I'll just give it to clients. Like if I know somebody's going to like it, but I don't usually try stuff if I don't think I'm going to like it, because it's like, why am I going to try it, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll give it to people. Like my friend Chrissy that passed away, her brother, I gave him one. I was like, Danny, just try it. Don't try it until you have food in your stomach, because everyone reacts differently. And so he calls me like the next day and he was like, yeah, can I get a case of that? And I was like, yeah, of course. And he was like, let me know and I can pick up a case of the watermelon. And so, you know, that was another revenue. I had a girl in there doing nails because, again, like I wanted it to be a high-end place, but it's so hard to find people that want to work now. You know, like I opened up this big shop, but now it's like, it's really, really difficult to find staff now because I don't really know why. People just like aren't working. But like, you know, so I had nails, but she ended up moving away. So like now that room like is available. Like I can rent it out. Like everyone tells me my shop has like tattoo vibes. They're like, it feels like a tattoo shop vibe. And I'm like, so I was gonna have someone do tattoo shop in there, but they ended up going to like Asheville, North Carolina. So that didn't work out.
Yeah.
But like I still have to sell that nail stuff. But like I'm thinking like maybe like massage in there, like get someone to do massage in there.
Yeah.
You know, but like there's all different types of things. I even talked to like Ryan and I was like, what if I did like a happy hour for like Kratom? You know what I mean? Like for so many hours, whenever. You know, there's so many different things now that I took that leap and I'm in this bigger space, even though I'm not as full as I want to be yet. Like I have so many different opportunities,
Yeah.
you know?
The opportunities are all over the place.
They're everywhere. It's so great.
And I think probably part of what makes it tough to fill that space for you is just listening back to each step of it is it comes down to like caring about what you're doing, about the customers, and by doing that you end up making this high quality thing, but by making this high quality thing that comes with higher standards. So to hit that, I mean, to go through, give a good quality haircut, and then actually like talk with people and care about the products that you're using. And then same thing with Mitra is like, you do a better job of like explaining what it is. There's only one other person that I've talked to that was at a kava bar that like broke everything down, even to like a scientific level. But every time I come in, you're like, I got this new thing. Check this out. Let's do this. And I think aside from me having met Dallas maybe 9 months ago, whenever I did meet him, and then finally we did this, the main reason why it was still on my radar is because I'm coming to the shop and seeing that. And by doing this and having these relationships with your vendors and everything, you can give them their direct feedback. You can do all these different things that I think you really don't have access to unless you actually care.
Exactly.
You know, like
exactly.
So you are going to repel people from working for you, that's for sure. But you might attract the people that are like, okay, I'll be here for 3 years, 5 years.
Exactly.
Let's go.
And what I want to do is I want to do what JC did for me. Like I wanted, like I had a girl that I sat her down and I'm like, what's your long-term goal? Like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to open up your own thing one day? Like, if you want to open up your own thing one day, then I can show you things like on like how to manage. Like, I can show you these things because Chrissy always used to tell me, like, I remember it was like my 24th birthday and I was crying to her. I was like, oh, or my 25th birthday, I was like, I wanted to have my own shop by now. And she laughed at me. She's like, Frances, you have to do what I'm doing for at least 3 years before you can like even think about doing that. And like, you know, she was absolutely right. But like back to like, you know, like the sales and stuff, like I sold Ryan on Kratom. Like, I don't think he would have opened his Kratom company if I didn't sell him on it. You know what I mean? But it's just about like being educated on it, and like I can't sell anything that I don't believe in. You know, and so like everything that I have, I believe in 100%. You know?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
So it's great.
Well, and it does come through in the work. And that's, I mean, these are all the reasons why I just keep coming back. It's like not even a thought at this point, right? It's like I've been going for almost 3 years, just good quality every time. But every time it's just, I guess maybe I always kind of dreaded getting haircuts because I would normally go to the chains, and it's like, when am I going to do this? Yeah, it's a gamble. Sometimes I might walk out with a square head. Sometimes my head might be a triangle. I don't know what the hell I'm getting into.
Sometimes it's good, and then you go back and that person's gone.
That happens a lot. So, all right. So, well, thanks for like walking through all this stuff. This is cool. I'm glad we got to like do it in this format and break down some of these business things. So I guess before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to touch on? Anything else you want to cover?
I super, super appreciate the opportunity.
Hell yeah.
This is great. I would just like to say, like, anyone that's like in the cosmetology barber world, or if you're interested in it, I guess what I would say is like, do not sell yourself short. And if you feel like you're hitting a wall, come talk to me. Come talk to me, because I'm growing still. There's lots of opportunities with me, and I love what I do, and I plan on expanding and opening up more Frances Scissor Hands. And so if you want to grow and you want to learn and be part of a team that is going to be known, that is known and will continue to be known as the best, and we'll be out at all the events, and you know, I'm not going to stop until my name is as big as Paul Mitchell, but not as mainstream, like sell out. What am I trying to say?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I want it to be like, you know, more luxurious and special. Like you can't just get it anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, I would just like to encourage anyone that feels like, you know, if you've hit a wall, or you know, you're not quite sure if this is like, you know, what you want to do anymore. I can't tell you how many times in the beginning, and even like through opening my shop, I remember like I had my shop, and all I could keep thinking about was like, all right, who can I sell this place to? Because I don't want to do this. And like I talked to you about it at that point, you know what I mean? And, but yeah, you just keep pushing, and I am not going to stop until we just have the best, and I have these Frances Scissor Hands everywhere.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. And
thanks for coming and doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you so
Sweet.
much.
All right, thanks everybody. This episode is brought to you by Southwest Florida Podcasts. If you're a business in Southwest Florida and you want to use a podcast to grow your business, scan the QR code on your screen or visit the link in the show notes at www.swflpodcast.com.